Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today we're doing another indie horror spotlight. Today, I have with us a director. He has two short horror films out right now. One is called Dweller of the Twilight Void Horror. And he also has another one out called Mirror Shadows. I have Peter Raveling with us today. Peter, welcome to the Horror Room.
Thanks for having me, Travis.
It's an absolute pleasure, man. It's an absolute pleasure. So, first off, let's tell my audience a little bit about Dweller of the Twilight Void Horror.
Dweller of the Twilight Void is my love letter to Italian horror, like movies by directors like Mario Bava, Lucio Fulci, and Dario Argento. And the title comes from, if you remember Fulci's City of the Living Dead, there's a quote, "The soul that pines for eternity shall pine for Dweller of the Twilight Void," I'm paraphrasing. And it is the story of a man trying to warn a woman that an evil entity is coming for them, and it feeds on fear.
Amazing, amazing. Now, what gave you inspiration for this project?
Inspiration, many things, namely just the inspiration, like I said, a lot of Italian horror, and just I had just done a heavy drama called A Borrowed Paradise, and every time I make a movie, I wanted to do something that in a complete opposite direction, and so I just yeah, the inspiration was just I need to diversify, and I wanted to make another scary horror piece. I don't do horror very often, and when I do, I tend to go all out, as you can see with the two.
Yes. Now, is it hard when it comes to making a horror to go the safe route and go with something that society and everyone else is going with? Is it harder to think outside the box and hit everyone with something new?
Definitely, because what scares people is so subjective. Like trying to make people laugh and trying to scare people is just as difficult. And what scares me, this definitely scares other people. Like I tend to get scared by older movies and newer movies. With the exception of Talk to Me, I generally don't get scared by newer movies. With the exception of Talk to Me, that movie made me have to run out of the theater.
Terrifying.
And with these two short films, I just put what I thought was scary into them. Some people, the people I watched do this, told me that creeped them out, and then you get naysayers.
And I had the privilege of watching Dwellers, and it's definitely something new. It's just something. Well, it's not. I'm not saying something new, but it's something that we haven't seen in a while. When it's something that it's something fresh. It's something that is kind of a hint back to some of the older psychological horrors.
Oh, that was the idea. That was the idea, was to have the audience come up with it. I wanted the audience to decide what was real and what wasn't. And I tend not like that. And when I did a screening of my short film Mirror Shadows, the black and white movie, I got asked what the story, and it was the same for Dweller. And pretty much both movies are purposely experimental and open to interpretation.
So you brought up Mirror Shadows. Tell us a little bit about that one as well.
Mirror Shadows is a 2019 short film about a sick girl who's living at home, and one night she's terrorized by an entity that feeds on negative emotions, and it's a nightmare creature, and she has to find the courage to fight it off. And that is my homage to Japanese horror.
And I love Asian horror. I mean, definitely. Now now I've watched a little bit of everything you've done. You've done hit a lot of different genres, everything from comedy to sci-fi to action and horror. Is it harder? Is horror harder to produce, direct, make than the other genres? Or do you find it a
Uh,
little easier?
Horror is hard to produce without question because of how subjective it is, and it's also you have to like work on the verisimilitude a lot harder. And like when we do sci-fi, you can like have get away with like an effect that's not quite right. But when you do horror, if you have like a digital effect or a makeup effect, it will take the audience out of the experience. So you have to be really conscious of what you have to hope that something doesn't look cheesy to the viewer because otherwise all that work will go up in smoke.
Well, and horror fans love practical effects. I mean, the real horror fans, anything CGI, it turns us off. So, like the practical effects are definitely important. There's not a lot of wiggle room for error.
And practical effects are great. Like I grew up loving like old school monsters and would you mind if I turn that timer off?
Mm.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right. And don't worry, I'll cut that out.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
All right.
So I grew up, loving like old school creature features and, less like gore effects by like artists like Tom Savini and, people of that generation. And I was fascinated by like, the grotesque makeup effects of like 70s and 80s horror. And of course, like, the Bravo teens worked on The Thing. I had
Yes.
the privilege of showing my friends that for one Halloween, and they'd never seen anything like that. And my friends are like my crew, and I've been lucky to have a great crew for each movie.
Yeah, I mean, because I grew up in the '80s. You know, I was born in the '80s, grew up in the '80s, so I'm a huge '80s slasher. That was my genre thing. Wes Craven. So I'm definitely a practical effect, and the CGI definitely takes me out of the realm. And that's something that's newer fans, but like CGI is great. So I'm not one of the people who bash CGI. CGI is great for action. It's great for sci-fi, adventure stuff. But like in horror, it doesn't add that realism that horror fans definitely want. So
Definitely. And we've used digital effects in our movies, and we use some digital effects in Dweller, but unlike Dust Angel, we kept the digital effects to an absolute minimum. And it's like in the hopes that they would like contribute to they'd be more effective, if that makes any sense.
so what got you into making movies?
What got me into making movies? I've been a storyteller ever since I was really young, and it started out, I suppose I wanted to be a writer, and then somehow I got the idea that I could like actually make movies. My father, who's no longer with us, he was the original cinephile in our family. He like gave me a love of the arts, and I got introduced like he was into like music and painting and of course cinema, and he introduced me to a lot of classic movies, like not just horror. We saw those, of course. Like
Yeah.
I watched my family like watched movies like Scream, probably when I was too young to be seeing that. And so like as I famously tell people, I saw Clockwork Orange when I was probably way too young to be seeing that too. But and of course I saw like Godzilla movies and Gamera movies, even even at a young age, my dad introduced me to classic foreign cinema, like a lot of movies that are in the Criterion Collection, like Kon Ishikawa's Fires on the Plain, or what else is there? David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch, or Oni Baba. Like all those movies that are now in the Criterion Collection, my dad found on VHS and we watched in our small house in Whitethorn. And for those of you who don't know, Whitethorn's a very rural place in Northern California, and it's a place that time forgot. So the fact that all the way in the 90s he could find those movies is just like amazes me. And so as I grew older and I got to, I currently live in Mendocino, California, and you'd be surprised how many movies actually have been made up here, like professional movies. Like if you know,
Really?
yeah, if you know like movies like Cujo,
Hmm.
um, if you know that movie Dead and Buried, Humanoids from the Deep, also The Majestic, and Overboard, with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. Those movies are filmed here. So
Wow.
a lot of famous movies were filmed in the Mendocino and Fort Bragg area. Those are filmed up here, and there were some amateur filmmakers before my time, and there was this film series called The Killer in Our Midst, which was like a slasher parody, and it's about like a middle school slasher. There were three of them made, and they were making the fourth one when I was in eighth grade, and I got to be, as like a 14-year-old, I got to be a crew member, and I got to play a killer, the killer. I got to double for the killer, which is surprising because I'm a short guy now, and I
Hmm.
was much shorter then. And like my dream was to play Jason. Believe it or not, I mean that's not my dream now because I'm not built and I'm short.
Yeah.
Like a stalker killer back then. The movie never got finished, but that gave me um the idea that I could actually do this myself, and then transitioned into um, I transitioned into doing stop motion Godzilla shorts.
Hmm.
Then, like my second to last year of high school, no wait, my sophomore year of high school, the summer of my sophomore year of high school, I made a zombie movie, a 35-minute zombie movie called Dead End World, which I'm
Oh,
not I'm not particularly. I watch that and I just go like, oof. But it's still fun and I'm still proud of it.
mhm.
And what that's what started my cinematic journey.
Now living in California, but by the way, I'm gonna spend some too. I've met pretty much all of the actors who have played Jason, and I tower. So I'm 6'4". I tower over all of them. So in my mind, I thought Kane Hodder and CJ Graham, those guys like this, or like was like these big tall guys. No, like I'll see a picture of like me standing next to Kane Howard. I'm like towering over him. And I always thought these guys were like huge dudes. And no, they're definitely under 6 foot.
Really?
Yes, I was like, I mean, Kane Hodder is a small guy. I mean, he's older now, but he's not a tall guy. I would say he's probably like 5'9", 5'10".
Oh wow. That's a little.
Yeah,
So you're saying this movie
yeah,
yet?
yeah. So now Michael Myers, all the actors play Michael Myers are like my height or taller. Like they're big dudes.
Really? And yet Mike
Yeah.
off the slimmer build in the movies. That's so ironic.
Hmm. Yep. Jason is all the Jasons I've met are like under 6 foot tall.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm definitely taller than they are. But so I mean, but so the question I was asked was, living in California, that is everybody in California wants to be a movie maker. They want to be an actor. They want to be a star. More so, and probably in Los Angeles. Is that a good thing? Also, to be able to network with a lot of filmmakers and having a plethora of actors and actresses to reach and bring into your projects.
Well, I live in like a rural area, California, and I live in the far north. So I do know certain people in the film industry proper, and I do tend to network with other filmmakers, but for the most part, I don't really have a large talent pool to draw from. And yeah, no, we don't really have a huge talent pool to draw from. And in the area I'm from, even though
Okay.
even though there are a lot of filmmakers, we're all independent of each other, and it's kind of like Highlander, where we think we're the only ones until we there's someone else. Like there was an article I read while I was at work where there was a guy that said, Willits Man makes movie in Mendocino area." And I'm not sure he knows of me or any of my other friends that make movies. So I would say, to answer your question, if you want to network and if you want to have consistent connections, my recommendation is to go to the SoCal. That's where all our industry is. However, I have been lucky to actually connect to Bay Area filmmakers because I live 4 hours north of the Bay Area. So, in a sense, yeah, I have been lucky in the fact that connecting to like Bay Area filmmakers has gone very well for me. Like, like part of Dust Angel was shot by an Iranian cinematographer who shot feature films. The actress who plays April in Dweller of the Twilight Void, she is based in Oakland, and we're getting ready to do another short film, and hopefully another after that. Pretty lucky in the fact that she takes like a 4 hour commute to get here.
That's amazing.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, that answered my question perfectly. Answer my question perfectly. Because the West Coast, so I live in Baltimore, Maryland, right? So if you were going to make a film in Baltimore, Maryland, you're fucking lost. You know, 'cause there's not a lot of filmmakers, indie filmmakers at all in Baltimore, Maryland. So you would have to go to New York, which is 3-4 hours away. Um, but like I know on the West Coast, like the West Coast is booming when it comes to indie filmmakers. I mean, you got California, Washington, and Arizona and Nevada are like booming right now with indie filmmakers. Like there's a lot. So I mean, there's a lot of you can bounce off of people if you're on the West Coast, especially when it comes to filmmaking. It seems like that is the place to be.
Oh, definitely.
So, all right, next question I gotta ask you. All right, so you're popping out short films pretty quickly. Is there any point that are you going to be worried that like, oh shit, what if I run out of ideas? What if I get that writer's block or that filmmaking block? Or is your brain constantly going on with ideas?
I would say my brain is always filled with ideas. A lot of times they go nowhere, but I've never been without an idea. Wasn't always a good idea. I got like some kind of projects. Like for example, like for example, my next short film is going to be a Giallo. I got the storyboards right here.
Oh, nice.
An American Giallo. Um, this will be an American Giallo. This is a concept for the poster.
That's amazing. I like it.
Um,
I like that.
I also got an idea. I also got the idea for a cyberpunk movie called Phoenix Tears. So I almost never run out of ideas. The hard part is getting it together. Yeah, the hard part is getting it together, getting the crew together, and then making it happen. Ideas isn't the hard part. it's the, completion is a different story. And there's any number of reasons why a project falls apart. Like I'm asking people to donate their time, to graciously donate their time, and they don't have, not everyone has the time that we used to have. Like when we made Dust Angel, that was made during like when COVID in 2021, when we were allowed to leave our houses.
Hmm.
We made that movie to literally keep sane. And fortunately, that's why that movie is so epic.
Now,
And,
it's like a
and me and a lot of other filmmakers I have two short films I never completed. One was my original attempt at a cyberpunk movie. I just didn't have the ability to achieve what the ambition of that script. And I also did a dark comedy called Dictator Hangout, where Castro and Kim Jong Il hung out, and they were like doing prank phone calls. I thought that was a really funny script, and I still have a Castro costume. But the guy who played Kim Jong Il, he decided that he wanted a life and he had other stuff to do. Or another friend of mine who made a pretty ambitious zombie movie that me and the cinematographer are working to restore and show at a film screening, and like another movie that they did. That due to the fact that in the Mendocino area, because like you're asking people to donate their time, work schedules come in and seasons go by and this time passes by and then a project just falls apart. So that's the scary part. I would say, yeah, the other scary part is doing independent films. There is always the chance that something can go horribly wrong and a project could fall apart and you got an X amount far, and then that's like a whole ton of work down the drain. So that's the stressful part.
yeah. And I can imagine. I mean, there's this whole nother headache with when it comes to indie filmmaking because I never made one, but I'm just interviewing because at any point something bad can happen and can knock down your whole operation. That's something that some of the big film producers don't have to worry about, and it's one of the struggles. Now, do you think with streaming services being out there now, I've asked this question many times. With streaming services out there being out there now, where it's a lot easier for indie filmmakers to get their projects out, but now it has also made it a lot easier for anybody to make a film. Do you see are there pros and cons, or do you just see all pros when it comes to streaming services?
That's a great question. There's definitely a catch 22. Okay, let's say the good. In my lifetime, we've democratized cinema where like people like me and others, anyone who wants to make a movie can make a movie and get it seen. And the downside is, the flip side is now because everything's democratized, there comes a different reality in the fact that movies have become content and getting onto streaming services, there's a saying that you spend more time looking for content than actually watching content.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say the downside is like if we were to get onto like a streaming platform out, or we have this thing with YouTube where um p- your work disappears in the shuffle. There's like, I don't know, 1 in 1,000 chance that yours can get clicked on and go viral.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that.
YouTube is a lot of people don't realize this by YouTube because I have been doing this for under a year now, so I'm pretty new to YouTube. Um, YouTube, you could put the greatest work out there ever. Listen, I could do the greatest interview. It doesn't necessarily say that people are going to click on it. You know what I mean? Um, YouTube is a hustle. It is a hustle. Like, and unfortunately, like you were saying with streaming service, also with YouTube, a lot of good content gets buried underneath everything else that's coming in. And I don't want to say bad stuff or crap, but like it's hard to find the good stuff just gets mixed in with everything else.
It's a real roll of the dice. And it's, when you like upload a video, you're just hoping for the best. Like, most watched movie is Dust Angel. And after like 10 years of filmmaking, I actually made a short, like my team actually made a short that got 73,000 views.
Wow.
None other work before or after got that kind of attention.
Yeah, it's definitely a roll of dice. I mean, even like with me, some of the my best work, I feel like my best work gets less views than some of the stuff. I'm like, oh, that was a throwaway, whatever, and like it gets thousands of reviews. I mean, views, and like something I think that's a piece of work, a masterpiece to mine, gets like 20 views. I'm like, well, how does that make any sense?
I know exactly what you mean. Being like, especially when you're proud of the stuff and like no one sees it.
Yes, yes. Well, you have that masterpiece that no one sees. All right, so pretty sure you see my channel, so we're going to shoot to the fun part of the interview. Are you ready? I'm going to ask you 3 hard questions. Okay. So, what is one horror movie? Actually, I think you already answered that question. You said I was going to ask you what horror movie has scared the crap out of you. You were going to say "Talk to Me," right?
Oh, you can
Okay.
ask me that again.
Okay, sure. Well, okay, I'm gonna reword it. What's one horror movie as a kid that scared the crap out of you?
Okay, one horror movie that scared the crap out of me as a kid. I would say, as a kid, that's a good question. Rewinding the gears of my brain. I would say
Man, the original Candyman scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. But it's like Tony Todd being like, my victim.
Yes, yes. And then like when he cut the little boy's thing off in the bathroom, I was a little boy at the time. I was like, oh my God, I don't want to go in the bathroom right now. So that scared me.
A horror movie that scared me as a kid is Lucio Fulci's Zombies, and that's because I got a funny story about that. When my dad rented me Zombie Zombie 2 Flesh Eaters, I thought I could handle zombie movies because I had just seen Chopper Chicks in Zombie Town, which was my first Billy Bob Thornton movie and my first zombie movie. And I had just seen Return of the Living Dead Part 2 with Ken Wiederhorn. And my dad actually knew one of the assistant directors on that one. He wasn't tied to the story, but he knew one of the assistant directors on that one. And so I thought, hey, I could handle zombie movies. And I had also seen like Return of the Living Dead Part 3. That ton of zombies scared me. And like, I got a funny story about that one too. But I didn't know that Zombie Flesh Eaters was so hardcore. So my dad just like takes a VHS, plops it in, and I'm about like 10 or so, and then the first scene with the boat zombie is like where it rips the dude's throat out.
Yeah.
Under the table, my dining room table.
Traumatized.
Then I jump into my dad's bed, and he's like, "Wait, what the fuck is going on here?" And then he goes into the living room, and then it's like the scene where Olga Carlotta gets her eye punctured. My watching that, and then Dad being the man he was, just burst out laughing. I was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, that turned me off.
Traumatized.
That I could not watch anything with zombies for a while. And then to my dad's never-ending regret, he rented the original Return of the Living Dead by Dan O'Bannon, and that just returned my. This was like years later, and that returned my enthusiasm for zombie movies, and I just kept begging him to like rent them for me. And it helped with the fact that I got to see the interview with Captain Haggerty. You know, the guy who played the boat zombie. It helped that I got to see him as a normal, nice guy.
Oh, that's amazing. I
Yeah.
love zombies movies growing up. Like my little sister and I, we used to she used to take our Barbies out of my action figures, and we would do zombie movie scenarios with our toys. And like we grew up loving zombies.
You like zombies or slow zombies?
Yes, I like the slow ones. But I've seen Train to Busan recently. I know it's been out for a while, but I've seen it recently, and I like those fast zombies in that movie.
They can be good. Fast zombies can be cool for like an adrenaline rush, or like
Hmm.
ones in like 28 Days Later. If you like.
Yes, those are great fast zombies as well. All right, ready for question number 2?
Mm-hmm.
What iconic horror movie everybody says they love it, it's iconic, blah blah blah, that you think is overrated?
An iconic horror movie I think is overrated. Let me think. I would have to say I'm gonna go with even though I kind of like it, it's Scream. Like I always thought the Scream movie, the Diet Coke of the horror genre.
I love Scream. See, mine is the original Friday the 13th. Everybody says that they love that movie. I don't understand why.
Yeah, it's not. There's not a whole lot. I like the original Friday the 13th movie, but there's not a whole lot to that movie. Like
Mm,
in the intervening years since like that movie, in the 40 years since that movie came out, there's not a whole lot of plot to it.
no, it's not a great movie at all. And like it seems like the older I get, the less I like that movie because it comes on TV every Friday the 13th, and like it used to be like a thing. I used to watch it every year when it came on. And now, like within the last 5, 6 years, I'm like, oh, I do not like this movie at all. Like this movie, it just didn't grow. It grew off of me over time. Um, but yeah, it's one of the movies. I so I'm not a huge Friday the 13th series fan. Probably my least favorite series. There are some gems in that series, but that movie is my least favorite out of the whole. The first one is my least favorite out of the whole entire series, believe it or not. And it's I don't think it's because Jason is absent in it or is not in it. It's just not good. It's not scary to me.
Well, there is a part when Kevin Bacon gets it through the throat. That's pretty
Yes,
awesome.
and that was a Tom Savini special effects part, by the way. He was actually under the bed.
I got it. As a kid, I had a soft spot for Adrienne King.
I actually met her. I met her at a horror convention. Was it last year? I met her and Amy Steele, who was the final girl from part 2. They were tables right next to each other, and both sweethearts, absolute sweethearts.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I remember I wanted to I don't know, I just felt whenever Adrienne King was in danger, I got a lot of anxiety as a kid. And I thought Amy Steele was also in The Prowler, but it turned out that wasn't her. I just read that today.
Mm-hmm. I felt bad for Amy Steele though. Let me tell you a story. So I was at that convention. Um, Adrienne King's line was long as anything, and like I said, their tables were right next to each other, and Amy Steele had no one in her line at all. And like I wanted to get both of their autographs, and so I jumped. Of course, did Amy Steele, and it's like, hey, and then I jumped in. I was like, that sucks. Like, you're both final girls from back-to-back movies, and one has this incredible long line, and somebody has no line at all. So I felt bad for Amy Steele that day.
Well, if you ever see her again, you could tell her that we all love all the final girls equally.
Yes,
Who's
I agree.
the lady from Part 7? I used to remember her name.
Part 7. Which one was part 7? Part 7.
One with the psychic lady.
Oh, you're talking about her name is. It starts with an L. Yes. It's like something weird, like Lake
Oh,
Bacon.
Laura Park Lincoln.
Lincoln, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I sent her a message saying like how much her work is still appreciated on through a DM. I probably was too overly enthusiastic. Problem is when I find someone on the net, I tend to get too eager McBeaver, and I wonder like, and they're like, what?
Yeah. I actually met with Felissa Rose from summer camp, and I'm surprised that like 'cause I've interviewed a lot of filmmakers who have had her in their movies. Actually, I went to a screening last weekend for a movie that she was in, and she wasn't there. I'm surprised. I messaged her about coming on my show for an interview. I would love that for Felissa Rose. She's an icon. She never responded back, but I'm pretty sure she's so busy that But I would love to have. I think Felissa Rose would be a fun interview.
I go for it. See if you can make that happen.
Yeah. I think that would be an amazing interview. I really do. All right, last question, my friend. What is the best indie movie you've seen recently? Horror movie.
Best indie horror movie. I am going to go with Talk to Me because it was made by YouTubers. That was out of all the horror movies this year. I saw that with a friend of mine while I was in Colorado. And when I saw it, I thought it was like a Blumhouse movie. I thought, wow, this is so by the numbers. But when the real horror stuff started coming on, I've never had a movie give me so much. And I never knew as an adult a movie could give me that anxiety. I had to cover my eyes. I had to. I felt like the movie physically hurt me.
It doesn't give you a break. I mean, literally, that movie does not give you. And like, I agree with what you said. The trailers, I was like, oh man, this doesn't look that great. But I go see every horror movie pretty much in the theaters, and I was like, whoa, from beginning to end, it just doesn't give you a break. It just doesn't. You're like, it's hitting you every second. I mean, great movie, excellent movie.
Yeah, it's so good. I have to debate whether I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
But I think that makers and I are cut from the same cloth because like I thought I found some similar influences. Maybe it's just me, but I found some similar influences. I thought it had a similar feeling of Dweller, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely see that. I can definitely see that. Dweller does give you a little bit of a break, though. Yeah.
Like, I tried to make that movie purposely funny, so it wasn't just gore for the sake of gore.
Yes, I agree. All right, my friend. So, Peter, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at my YouTube channel, Dorn Ravlin. That is DornRavlin. Instagram, Peter Dorn Ravlin. Instagram and Facebook, Peter Dorn Ravlin.
Awesome. And for the YouTube channel, just click down my link. It'll be down there. Peter, it's been an absolute blast having you on, my friend. You're more than welcome anytime. Come back on.
Thanks.
Coming to the horror room, I'm Travis Bruce. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
Thank you.